Welcome to CPG Vibes. No scripts,
just chat.
I'm Alex Baer.
And I'm Wade Yenny.
Each episode is recorded live, and we talk all things food and beverage, and so much more.
Feel our vibe and search for CPG Vibes on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and make sure to give us a 5-star review.
If you'd like to sponsor our show with your product or service, email us at cpgvibes100@gmail.com.
Now, let's vibe.
All right, welcome to episode 127 of CPG Vibes. How's everyone doing? We have an amazing episode today for those that are attending, right? We're really excited to have you here. We have over 100 people, Wade, that have registered to attend our Expert Series, Volume 3, Brands, Brokers, Buyers. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I know it looks like I'm pretty not pumped, but I am. Wade, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I arrived back after being gone for a week between personal trip to California to attend Billy Jackson's wedding.
William Jackson, Sir William.
Billy, it was Sir William, but Billy and Annabelle's wedding, and congratulations again, guys. And from there, I made my way to Texas for our quarterly V-driven retreat, and spent some time with our team in person there, which was a lot of fun, and had a little bit of a delay getting back. I got back at 1:30 in the morning, my time here. So I'm not well rested, but nonetheless, I'm excited about what we've got lined up and who we're going to talk to today.
Yeah, it's going to make for even better content when you're devoid of any sleep. It becomes more random and fun. So we like that on the show. We like that.
Exactly.
So good stuff. And then, so was Billy's wedding, was it in San Diego or was it in Texas?
It was in San Diego. Our retreat was in Texas because our VP of sales is in Texas. So we had it at his place. So
got it. I was wondering, because Luke is in San Diego, right? And then he went out to Texas as well. Okay, got it.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to go through our laundry list items. We have some tremendous guests. I mean, the amount of firepower, the amount of knowledge, just braininess, everything about CPG. It's going to be fully loaded on this show. So we're excited to bring everyone on in about 7 or 8 minutes. We're going to try to get through this pretty quickly so we can leave more time and room to have our guests on so we can talk with them versus you hearing me and Wade, right? So couple things, right? Number one, pun intended, we are the #1 rated CPG podcast in the world. To keep it that way, make sure to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcast or also on Spotify. We also have sponsorship and block rates. Make sure to email cpgvibes100@gmail.com. We're basically booked out until early December at this point, but never too late to reserve your spot and get a couple sponsorships going. We have, well over 100 people on right here on this show. We get several hundred, if not 1,000. They listen on Apple Podcast or Spotify. So great ways to get your, the word out on your service, your product, whatever you offer. And it's hyper targeted to the CPG community. So really good sponsorship opportunities with CPG Vibes. We have a Slack channel, cpgvibes.slack.com. And then we also have our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@CPG Vibes, right? Did I get that right?
I was going to say, I'll put the link in. It'll make life a lot easier, but you're right. It's YouTube and it's @CPG Vibes.
At, like the little logo.
Yeah, the little logo.
Since Wade is, again, didn't have a lot of sleep last night. He's behind on it, but he's getting to it. He's going to get these links up. His brain
they're flying through there. The comments are coming in so quickly. You're missing it. The links are all there. They're all there.
So we have to put it up. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, just to one up you, is I'm going to put it up right here for people to see fully. Boom.
There you go.
All right. There we go. All right. So, and then we have 2 ongoing sponsors, and we also have our weekly sponsor. So the weekly sponsor is Machiko. Mark, I'm going to call him Mark M. His last name is long. And Machiko is and I'm going to go through at least a description of what his product is. And we're going to be giving away 2 8-packs. 2 8-packs, which has matcha, and it's a high quality matcha beverage in a can. Super, super tasty, very healthy, gives you clean energy. They have four flavors: matcha, matcha lemonade, oat milk matcha latte, and almond milk matcha latte. And they're giving away 2 8-packs of that to a lucky winner. Stick around till the end of the episode. We're going to ask a trivia question, and you can win 16 cans of delicious matcha drinks, which is what we need on our show, right? We need energy.
And how did you say? How do they win, Alex? Say that again.
You have to stay tuned until the end of the episode, and there's going to be a trivia question about something that we mentioned somewhere in this episode, or that Jeff Church mentions, or Karen mentions, or Darren,
or Ollie,
right? So anyone,
or in full transparency, we might have already said it. So make sure you're taking notes, paying attention.
Yeah, could be something on my shelf over here. Who knows? So that's that, and we have our ongoing sponsors, and that's V Driven. I've heard of those guys. And then we also have Range Me. So Range Me, they're the smartest way to get your brand in front of thousands of retailers. Experience always on-brand exposure, exclusive buyer discovery opportunities, and access to proprietary insights, research, and resources. They have over 15,000 buyers. Range Me ensures continuous exposure to retail buyers from top retailers like Target, Albertsons, Whole Foods, Sprouts, Publix, Kroger, Costco, Wegmans, HEB, Food Lion, and the list goes on. Giant Foods, Fresh Market, Fresh Market, and all those guys. So, and that's not all. They have a combined service with ECRM category sessions, dealer exclusive live in-person events. You can meet directly with leading and regional, national and regional retail buyers for curated face-to-face meetings. Want to elevate your brand? Visit rangeme.com/CPG vibes. So don't need the blog in there. And they have savings by mentioning CPG vibes by coming from us. They have a premium membership, which is typically $13.99. Get it for $9.99. They have a pro, which is typically $24.99 a year. It's $16.99. I mean, Wade, this is a drop in the bucket compared to what value you're getting from Range Me.
It's huge. And I know we've had a couple people reach out to Range Me over the last week that tuned into the show. And make sure you mention the show and you'll get those savings.
Sweet. And V Driven, you want to take that one?
I would love to. Just contact me and I will tell you anything and everything you want to know about V Driven. But just real quickly, we are a sales brand management organization. We do consulting, we do accounting work, we do deduction management. You name it, we've got you. Wherever you're at in the business, we'll meet your needs. Reach out to me personally right here on LinkedIn, or you can email at wade.yenny@vdriven.com.
You have an email now. I love it.
I do have an email. It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. LinkedIn.
I'm about 200 behind because of being gone for the last week, but I have an email.
Yeah, you're going to spend half the weekend just going through your backlogged emails
More than
there.
Likely.
Yeah, have Renee help you on that. Please, you need the help.
Like it.
Yeah. All right. So with all that said, we're going to be rolling right in to introducing our guests here. We're actually running right on time, which is pretty rare for this show. We're usually always behind on everything, and that's because I talk too much. So without further ado, we're going to be bringing on, in no particular order, we have Jeff Church. He's the founder of CPG Accelerator and also one of the early co-founders of Suja that is now exited and doing great. We have Ollie Shouman. He is the Chief Commercial Officer of CA Fortune. We have Karen Danudjaja. She is the co-founder and CEO of Blume. And we have Darren Viscount, and he is the Natural Living Senior Category Manager of Bristol Farms. How you guys doing?
Hello.
Welcome.
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
So this is our expert series, volume 3, and everyone's a little shy in the beginning, who talks first, and everyone's a little nervous, and we're here to loosen everyone up with our really bad humor and our bald heads here, me and Wade. But we're just going to go into basic questions about, focusing on CPG with brands, buyers, and brokers, how to navigate all these areas. Because usually, when you're in the CPG community, or when you run a CPG brand or with a brand, you're going to be facing 1, 2, basically all 3 of these elements when building your brand. And we're really here to help the community. So I'm going to start out with just right out the gate with a question. And I'm going to start it with, and actually, I'm going to take a step back. why doesn't everyone introduce themselves? We're going to go counterclockwise. We're going to start with Ollie, and tell us one thing that we probably don't know about you that you want to say on the show. So Ollie, we're gonna start with you, and we're gonna put you on the spot, and then we're gonna go to Karen next.
Starting with me, one thing people don't know about me that I want them to know here on the show. That's great, Alex. I appreciate that.
Yeah, or that you don't want them to know. That could be that.
Okay, I'm going to think about that one a little bit as I introduce myself. Great to be here. Excited about this. Alex, haven't met you, but have been following you for quite some time on LinkedIn and the socials. Wade, know you very well, so I appreciate you guys having me. I'm Ollie Shouman. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at CA Fortune. I've been in CPG for about 20 years. Unique experience on both the brand side, the Brand Accelerator side, and then on the broker side of the business. So just excited to chat and learn a lot from everybody here that's on the podcast with us. So, and something about me. Oh man. I played college sports. I was a two-sport college athlete. How about that?
Well, you have to tell us what they are.
Yeah,
obviously.
Baseball and football.
Awesome.
Okay, those are solid sports. It wasn't, one of the obscure sports. All right, and then Karen, you're up next. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm Karen Danudjaja. You did a great job with my last name, by the way. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Blume. We're on a mission to build kinder rituals with superfoods. I think one thing that people probably don't know about me is that I didn't come from CPG at all. I'm actually from the world of commercial real estate. And Blume was like a passion project, side project for me that has become, something totally different. And I think, for anybody who's on the call thinking about, or who's new in their business, new in CPG, it's just like one step at a time. I didn't have a background on it. And now Blume's in about 4,000 stores across Canada and the US. And so, I'm happy to speak a little bit to navigating the wild world of CPG. It's the nicest community ever, and anyone is willing to take a call and answer your question. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Jeff, you're next.
Sure. Thanks, Alex. I'm Jeff Church. Something people don't know about me. I was an avid runner and mountain climber, and I've run like 65 marathons and half a dozen ultra marathons and climbed 5 of the 7 summits. That's all fun and everything, but I have from that 2 full knee replacements and a massive cage in my lower back now, I think, because of all that. So orthopedics definitely hasn't caught up with me yet, but yeah, that's something that is interesting of me. And I'm the former co-founder of Suja Juice, which we were able to build into today's about $350 million business, and we sold it several years ago. But that all sounds probably really great, but I can't tell you the number of times I looked over into the abyss, wondering if we were going to make it or not. So lots of lessons learned. And Suja wasn't my first business. I've had 8 different businesses over the last 25 years, and some have been successful and some have been brutally unsuccessful. So I've got a broad range of good and challenging.
Awesome. Well, I did not know that about you, about the 65 marathon.
I was just going to say, I think I'm working up a sweat here to just hearing. I ran one. I ran one and I tapped out. I finished the race. I tapped out doing another one after that. So 65. I'd take a hat off, but I'd have to tell Darren to take his off because I don't have one. But yeah.
Yeah, I would say the closest you're getting to fitness and sports is wearing a Nike shirt, Wade, right there.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Today, right now. I agree.
Today, you look very fit today with that on.
Thank
All right, so the Cavaliers, right?
Yes.
All right, Darren, my man, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going? So my name's Darren Viscount. I've actually been in CPG for 27 years, managed every category except food service, thankfully. That's one I would never want to do. So I have something that I guess most people kind of know, maybe don't know, is that my true passion is art. So I'm working to be mainly a full-time artist. So I'd say that's probably my passion project. My first show will be, I'm hoping, in the fall. So I guess that's kind of my true passion other than CPG.
Yeah, invite us to your
Nice.
show, like wherever
Yes.
it is, and we're gonna bid everything up for you. You're like
Thank
the
you.
highest bidder. And then it looks like there's an art piece behind you or something behind you. It looks really
No,
cool.
I'm just in an office, so unfortunately that's not my piece. But
Oh, okay. Still, well, I'm sure yours is even better than that one. So
yeah, I hope so. Thank you.
good stuff. Okay, we're gonna get rolling here with questions again for those that are tuning in. If you have any comments, questions for our guests, right, with all the brain power we have here, just put it in the chat. We'll try to throw it up for you and get these questions to our guests. We can't get to everyone given the size of it, but we'll try. So the first question
And
I have,
Alex, I was going to tell
go
our,
ahead.
I was just
Yes.
going to tell our guests real quick. If you want to respond to something in the chat, you have to do it in another tab on LinkedIn. You can't do it in the Restream app. It won't appear. So if somebody sends something to you there, or you want a thumbs up or something, it has to be in your tab on LinkedIn separately. It's kind of just the way it works. So, all right, Alex, let's go.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, we have our first misspelling of Suja. Just wanted to announce that, which I'm sure happens. Suju, but then she said, sorry, Suja, and that's Carly Spat. Sorry to call you out, Carly, but you corrected it. That's good. All right, just a little joke. All right, so the first question is going to be ladies first, right? So this is going to be for Karen. Yep, putting you on the spot here. It's a softball question. We're going to get to the harder questions with Jeff and Ollie and those guys. So first question is, how do you know that a brand product will take off when you're really in the early stages of ideation? Is it gut, like, oh, I think this will take off based on what I'm seeing anecdotally in stores? Is it data driven? Is it both? Like, what do you go through in ideation to be like, I know this could actually be good? Like, what thought process did you go through with Blume?
I think so much of our innovation as we're getting started, like Blume is about 7 years old, and so many of our products are really from gut feeling and being a customer myself. Like, what pain points do I have that I'm trying to solve? But as we get more sophisticated with our innovation pipeline, we're really doing a lot more work with our customers. So Blume is really unique, I guess. Not every CPG brand has such a big D2C base. Like, we really started the business as an e-commerce brand. And one of the huge advantages of it is that direct line of communication with your customer. So we can survey, have their email, set up interviews, do all those types of things, where when you go through kind of, let's say, like a grocery store, you have like a certain level of disconnection to the end customer, and it's harder to communicate with them directly. And so now, like, we just recently launched a new lineup called Super Belly. The functions, the flavors, the format were really chosen with and for our customers, with more direct, them really giving direct feedback along the process. And that has been our most successful launch yet. So I think as we think about innovation in the future and setting ourselves up for success, it's really trying to get feedback early from your customer to make sure that you're not thinking you know what they need versus them actually telling you what they're looking for. And yes, we are a Canadian brand from Vancouver.
Awesome. And then Mike's one of your investors too, right? I believe. Mike
Mike Fata. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. All right.
Awesome.
So same question to Jeff, and this could really tie into Suja and other brands you started. Like, what do you go through in the ideation stage, which tells you this could be something that could be successful?
Yeah, I think to be honest, it's in the beginning, you don't really know. I mean, I think you put a product out there. I mean, you obviously have to align, with the with the market, and is it a product is it an ingredient or a product that's a category that's growing? So you want to have a tailwind versus a headwind. Headwinds are horrible. A business is hard enough without a headwind, but you really want to find a tailwind if you can find one. But you really don't know, in my experience. So you need to get a product out there, and then you need to have kind of a robust way of, getting not anecdotal comments from people, but getting feedback, from the marketplace on, what do they think of the flavors? What do they think of the product? Does the product, fit? And does the product taste good? I mean, so many brands launch and they've got either a great price or they've got great functionality, but the product tastes horrible. And people don't repeat unless the product, tastes good. So for me, taste is always, even if it's a zero sugar product to a full sugar product, the taste really for me is the most important thing, because I feel like most of us, we want to do, it's like a bell curve, right? On the one end, you've got people that, they just want product to taste good, but they don't care if it's good for you. On the other end, you've got people that will literally eat or drink something that tastes like cardboard if they think it's good for you. But most of us those people make up together about 15% of the market. But most of us are in that middle part of the bell curve where we all want to, join this health and wellness, journey, but we want to move a little bit to the right to be better for you, but we don't want to be bludgeoned, from a taste standpoint, or we won't repeat. And repeat is probably one of the most critical measures that you look at. So for me, you don't really know early on. I mean, I can tell gutturally if the product tastes good, as a generalization, but you don't really know. So you have to pivot. And I think pivoting is also like really important in that vein, because if you look at the top 10 products at Suja when we started, only one of them is in the top 10, 12 years later.
That is definitely true. Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to predict, and you really don't know what people want until you put it onto the market. And there's things that you thought people would never want, but they're buying it when it hits the shelf. So it's really fascinating. So Wade,
or reasons that you don't know exactly
Right.
what the consumer reasoning is for buying it. We have a product that I work with called Junie. It's an organic tea, and we've done some surveys and we see that people are buying it in the afternoon, and they're buying it because it's got a low amount of caffeine, but it's enough as a pick-me-up, so people like it because of that. But you don't really know that going into it. If you do know that, you're smarter than me and a lot of other people.
Yeah, exactly right. Right. Wade, do you have a question all teed up?
Yep. I'm going to start with Ali, and then we're going to have the same question go over to Darren. And Ali, I know your background, as you mentioned, is diverse. You've seen it on the emerging side, on the broker side, things like that. Talk a little bit about some strange off the wall. You don't have to name specifics, but whether you talk about products or categories that aren't necessarily on trend that have taken off, and what do you contribute that to? Is it hard work? Is it luck? Is it and then maybe put your own spin on it from a standpoint of the business management side. How do you support that and push that from your end?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a great several set of questions within a question, so I'll do my best to get to them all, Wade. I would agree totally with Jeff, actually, on the taste profile in terms of launching a new brand, right? I think a lot of people forget that the product actually has to taste good to be repeatable in terms of purchasing, right? And so one of the first things that we're looking for, even if it's an off-the-wall category or a very sleepy category that, ultimately at the end of the day, you're not even sure that the consumer wants innovation in this space. One of the first things we're looking for is, does the product actually taste good? And if it tastes good, then you can really dig into what the fundamentals are of the product, right? From a commercialization standpoint, is there a consumer out there that's willing to repeat purchase the product, and really start to think about how you can build a business? In terms of the brokerage space, and I'll call this brand out directly. I've known these guys for almost a decade. Zoop is probably a brand that's familiar to many. It's a premium broth. And it's a premium broth in a glass jar. And truthfully, when I met the founder of Zoop about a decade ago, I thought very, directly that this was not a product that would have success. Heavy packaging, high price point, tough to ship, tons of reasons to say no. But the product tasted phenomenal. And, in kind of sitting down and listening to how evangelical the founder was about the product. And founders can be super evangelical, and sometimes that works really well. And sometimes, we need a little bit of a reality check on where we can go and what we can do. But, you just kind of found yourself believing. And, fast forward a decade, and we're talking the fastest growing broth in that category. We're talking concentrates and soups, and even finding a way to ship glass online on Amazon and make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
So, tons of examples of that. We've got, a bunch of different ways that we look at kind of the whole CPG space. We're super housed in the data side of the business. We're not really the gut instinct type people, right? We want to make sure that we've got some sort of quantitative analysis along with the taste profile. And then the last thing I'll say is 5 years ago, it was a lot easier to take gambles on kind of where a brand was going, because the financial situation from an investment standpoint was a lot different than it is today, right? And I think a lot of the investors, a lot of the PE groups, a lot of the angels out there are looking for a brand to actually have good fundamentals, to actually understand, like, how are you going to promote this product? How are you going to find the consumer in that digital space, right? What sort of shopper marketing are you thinking about? Even if it's not a D2C product, can you find a way to, find the consumer on a screen? I think 70+% of organic search originates on Amazon today, right? So all of the different kind of trigger points go into building a brand that didn't exist even pre-COVID. It's a fun place to be, but there's certainly a lot thrown at you all the time.
Love it. I think I was going to say, and I think that's great, great stuff. And as you mentioned, there's probably several talking points from that. But I'm going to roll it over to Darren, and along with that, since Ali touched on it, being data driven, you can follow up that what we asked Ali, and then Darren, John Bay wants to know if we have any suggestions. I'll address this to you. If you have any suggestions how to approach buyers despite not having 52 weeks of sales data. So Ali mentioned being very data driven. Obviously, you're in a different scenario, Southern California, smaller scope of where you're at. You can follow up on Ali's and then maybe address John's question as well.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, the way we kind of look at it is, we're looking at voids. So I think, the biggest challenge understanding to us, if you don't have sales history, we want to know, what are your competitors? Where do you place in our store? What promotions? So there's a lot that goes into it other than just the analytical. Obviously, if I have data, it's going to make me have a better product decision. But if people understand how they're actually going to help us get it off the shelf, a lot of times I'll take a risk in a category that maybe I hadn't considered, or it was a void category that we haven't currently stocked. So it's really, for me, it's good. What's the relationship with the in-store teams? What's the promotional? So really just kind of simplifying for me and understanding, what your placement is within our store and how you're actually going to manage it within our stores and how you're going to help support the in-store activation. As far as the other question would have been, I guess the biggest category that I'm the most surprised on is the non-alc social tonics. Originally, I brought those in 2 years ago. I started with one brand. For me, it was kind of difficult to understand, like, why would someone, I think about, like, people typically drink alcohol because they want the effects from it. They want to feel good. They want the social impact that it has when they're with their friends or family or work environments. But we brought in one brand 2 years ago, and this year we're trending 326% year over year. So for us, the category has exploded. I mean, we probably kind of live in an island where we're in California, and we definitely have a lot more influencers that can impact that category for us. But for me, it's almost like a no-brainer for me, because the way we looked at it was that, if someone drinks something every day, whether it's water, alcohol, sodas. And so, for us, we kind of positioned it the goal was to bring in a little bit more, younger demographics to our stores. So I'd say that for us has been a huge win for us. And actually is, I would say right now, the number one growth category within Bristol Farms. So it's been a big win for us.
Wow.
Love it.
That's great.
And, a couple things to mention, just kind of piggybacking off what Ali said. I remember it was funny, before we went to live, I'm like, how do I pronounce your name, Ali? And then Wade was like, think of Ollie Pop, just without the pop.
Yeah.
Like, that cemented it in. I know how to pronounce his name now. And so really going to it, innovation, I think, is one of the biggest things that have been hit right in the last 2 or 3 years, especially I would say the last 18 months. And I'm sure you guys have seen this chart that shows CPG innovations from 2020, 2021, when people were flush with cash. And starting in 2022, it just started going down. And 2023 went really down. And it's down. I don't know if I could believe this data, Wade, but it was down 85% innovation. And so people are going back to, and Ali said this, back to basics, back to things that people love. Americana, renditions of Americana products that people know and love, but making them healthier. Just simple, straightforward products that taste good. They're good for you, easy to educate consumers. And I think that's really key. And then the other thing I'll mention, and I'll shut my trap, is one product that I feel when I first saw it, I'm like, how the hell is this product going to make it, right? It was coconut cold, because I never tried it. Like $9.99 for a jar, $19.99 for the bigger jar. Like, how the hell is this product going to make it? This is back in like 2016, 2017, when I saw it starting to hit Whole Foods, the shelves. But once I went to their social media, understood their story, understood the benefits, and tried it, it shifted everything for me. And now Coconut Cold is the fastest growing natural yogurt in the country. They're doing really, really well. And then obviously having someone like Ari Raz at the helm makes them accelerate even faster. I wanted to shift it to a question back to Jeff for this one. So I want to get into the subject of refrigerated functional beverage, which I know everyone knows is some aspect, right? Especially Darren, you look at these products every day. Ali, you know, brands are reaching out to you that are refrigerated functional. What has changed since the Suja days, right? The glory days of Suja, where everyone wanted HPP, everyone wanted, which may be the case today, right? It's still popular. But what advice would you give to a entrepreneur that wants to launch in this day and age, in this environment, a refrigerated functional beverage? Should they still consider it? Should they look at alternate ways to make the product for easier logistics? Like, what are your thoughts on refrigerated functional beverage?
Well, I mean, when I was at Suja, I thought to myself, okay, if I ever create another brand, it won't be a refrigerated product. But then I created another brand that wasn't a refrigerated product. It was an ambient product and rowdy and energy drink. And obviously you can be in the refrigerated, case, but you have to earn your way into that at retail, which makes sense. And, but for the life of me, being a single can in an ambient aisle, a single ambient can in an aisle, the brand that nobody knows about, I don't know. It's the velocity rates are so much less, must be so much less than they are in a refrigerated basis that, kind of makes me feel like, oh, geez, I miss the old refrigerated days. So I think there's pros and cons, on both sides of it. I mean, obviously ambient, you can do case stacks, but it even takes a while for you to be able to get retailers to allow you to do case stacks and stuff like that. So, but you can do more stuff with, product that doesn't have to be refrigerated. There is something though, I think, about the refrigerated product that people feel like it's fresher, and it's more closer to natural than an ambient product that has a 20-month shelf life. So I think there's some real benefits in refrigerated. It's definitely more expensive, but you automatically, when you're a refrigerated product, if you can get into the distribution, you're going to get in the cold case, and the cold case is going to have higher velocity rates than an ambient product. It might be that the thresholds to maintain that space are higher, for you as a brand. So you have to be sensitive to that, because if you're going into something, there's a retailer that we went into with one of my products that, has a 10, units per store per week. It's an RTD beverage, threshold to maintain the shelf. And that's really challenging to maintain a 10 units per store, per flavor per week, velocity versus ambient. It's going to be a lot less, but still the thresholds are there. So I think there's pros and cons on both of them. I think if you have a product though that has to be refrigerated, then that's really your only option. But from an economic standpoint, beyond even getting on the shelf, refrigerated is going to be more costly to you, because refrigerated truck, LTLs going across the country, costs probably 3 times the price of a non-refrigerated truck, and you don't really ever know if it goes out of temperature on a loading dock. And so when we were at Suja, when I started it, I would ship a full truckload with literally a half a pallet or a pallet of product on it across the country, because I couldn't trust that the cold chain wouldn't be broken in there. So I mean, there's kind of pluses and minuses to both of them. So I'm kind of torn, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and you look at some of these comments, trying to track who this is, Wade.
Mitch Bernstein.
Mitch, he's always a LinkedIn user, doesn't come through. But ambient, really good point. Ambient shelf-stable merchandise and refrigeration, like you were saying, Jeff, it's kind of the best of both worlds. That's worked. And then perception of freshness without the distribution costs of chilled. And then, I think products that are shelf stable but they taste better refrigerated are also I like that strategy as well. Like a canned like Poppy, I think, is a good example, or Culture Pop. It just tastes better chilled, a refreshing soda, but it can be shelf stable. So they save all the money, but then when it goes on shelf, they tell the buyer, hey, if you want more velocity, put it in the cold case because it tastes better cold. So I wanted to do a follow-up question for Karen here. I'm going to shift because we have limited time on all these podcasts. I wish I could do a 3-hour one on this one, but it would go bleed into dinner on the East Coast here. So Karen, fundraising, right? We always talk about this with founders. What is a fundraising strategy that resonates more with you, and then maybe something you have done in the past, right, in raising capital for Blume, in relation to timing, like how do you spread it out over time, amounts, and structure of raise? So for a budding entrepreneur that's starting to hit their first $1 million in revenue, they want to go out and raise some serious capital, how do you recommend to approach investors and time that out? And then what kind of structure do you recommend?
Yeah. So for Blume, we've done one safe round, and we did it about 2 years ago. And so I wouldn't call myself like a fundraising expert, but I think the thing that, at least my personal philosophy around raising, is that I don't want to celebrate the raise. I want to celebrate what we do with it. And I think that there is like a real shift in the industry right now where we're moving towards like, really understanding the P&L of your product, making sure the fundamentals are there, and that you're not relying on raises to continue to scale your business. And so really, like, my hope is I never have to raise again, versus it being like this always on thing. But, who knows how that actually turns out.
Right.
I think the thing that I did right for my raise is that I had been like networking and building relationships long before it. And so when I ended up going out to raise my safe round, I had like a warm community that I could go to, and other founders who were willing to make introductions and guide me along the way. And we were able to do that $2.5 million raise in about 5 weeks because of that. So I think if it's something that, I think like having an understanding of your cash forecast as a CPG brand in any business is so important. And maybe that literacy isn't there for a lot of smaller brands. And so having a plan for when you're going to need it, and planning early for it, and building a network and community that can support you going through it, because it is like a full-time job to go out and raise, is so important, like that planning ahead. When we did go out and raise that safe, it was basically like those 5 weeks I was doing that. And that's so hard in a small brand to be able to say, okay, like day to day, I need to step aside from this a little bit and just like focus on doing this round and getting it done. And so I think like the planning that goes into it and being ahead of it is so important. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Alex, can I make
Absolutely.
a comment? I love what Karen said. I think it's spot on. One thing I'd say on the type of structure is, what I see a lot is people will take their safe or their convertible note, and they'll convert it into a preferred stock. And I would strongly suggest that you try to convert it into a common stock, because assuming that that's not an institutional round that you're doing with a VC or a private equity fund, because if you get into a preferred too early in a brand, then you're going to have.
Oh, that was just some feedback. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Some noise. Yeah, if you get into a preferred too early, and when you get to an institutional round with a VC, you're going to get like a 2x or a 3x or something like that. But it's going to be really punitive if you don't sell the full company when you're ready. When you're ready to sell it. And so I think that's it's important. And the safe, I think the safes are great. The convertible notes are great. I like to bring people straight into the equity of the cap table. I've had a brand that took a lot longer to get to a priced round, which is where you'd have a VC fund or firm, and because of that, the interest accrual on it built up to had a pretty dilutive impact on the brand. So, and I think in today's world, VCs and private equity funds or firms, they want a higher level of performance, meaning proof of concept, if you will, before they'll invest in you. They're willing to take obviously a higher priced valuation, but they want that proof of concept. Where I think maybe 10 years ago, they were willing to take a little bit more risk on earlier stage brands. So it becomes more of an angel, you might have a couple rounds of angel rounds in there before you get
Right.
to
I
that.
kind of
price
call
round.
it like back in those days. This is totally sarcastic. It's like the cocktail napkin fundraising where you can meet with someone and write it out on the deal on a napkin, and then like they'll invest in you if they love the idea and the vision of it. There's obviously a lot of factors in that, but I felt obviously, and you've experienced it too, Jeff, is raising capital or 10 years ago still very difficult, but easier than it is now, right? So I want to switch
Yes.
over to Darren here. Thank you for waiting patiently here. So this is a fun one. I love this question, Wade, and I think you can also like kick in your thoughts on it. All over the country, there's retail stores that have a smaller version of those with a different name. They're two different entities, right? So Publix and Greenwise, Vons and Pavilions, Bristol Farms, Lazy Acres, right? Owned by the same company, but two different chains with two overlapping missions, but different missions and maybe some overlap in different areas as far as customer demographics. So, Darren, this is a fun one because how do you interact and coordinate with being a buyer at Bristol? How do you coordinate with Lazy Acres, right? So let's say there's a product that's on fire at Lazy. Do you then bring it into Bristol? Is it kind of an automatic thing? Is it something like you have to do a whole entire review? How does that process work when interfacing with Lazy and the products they have in their stores?
And we definitely, the benefit is, we have a unique situation. We're obviously in the same corporate office. And so we are able to see the analytics. So oftentimes I'll bring something in or Lazy Acres will bring something in. And so I can see kind of, a 6-month period. And I can kind of see if it's trending. We definitely have, at Bristol, we have a different clientele or a different guest compared to Lazy. You definitely have more of the naturalist. They're going to go into Lazy Acres, where we kind of always say we have the transitional customer. So we will look at items that would typically, like, the people who just want to kind of dip their toe into natural. So that's kind of the items that we will bring in. But we, like I said, we have the benefit. And then we also have, because we're in the same office, we also have meetings where we'll review and say, okay, this is trending, or someone's presented us. Because most often, most of the people are presenting us individually. And then we're able to, like today, there were 2 brands that I was reviewing, was able to talk with the buyers or the category managers for Lazy Acres and said, okay, what do you think? Or what's your opinion? We can collaborate and we can kind of think about, how you've success with this category previously. And so it definitely has a lot of benefit to us of having those analytics from another banner. So we definitely have leaned in on that. And it's been successful for us.
Yeah, and I would say, one thing that I think is for brands out there, please don't do this. And I think, Darren, you're a very nice guy, and I'm sure this is it's in the back of your mind, right? But you're not going to like call people out on it, right? Because you're nice. Is if you're in one of them, don't assume you're going to get into the other. Don't be like calling the buyer and saying, "Oh, I'm in Lazy. Okay, Darren, just bring me right in." Like, no, like it's seen as a new opportunity. Obviously, you're going to lean into the data, the analytics, all these things, but don't just assume you're going to get in. And then I think like, don't ask. To me, I think it's maybe it could piss someone off. Depends on the buyer. Don't ask the buyer to say, "Hey, can you give a good word for me?" to the other buyer. Like, I think that to me is bad manner. So
I would agree with that. I mean, that happens quite often, honestly. But obviously I do it with grace and try to be as kind as I can with them. But it is not unusual for someone to say, "Hey, it's Lazy. Can you bring it into Bristol?" and vice versa. But they also, like, I would ask any brand broker to really truly understand our customer base. So just because, again, you brought it into Lazy Acres, which tends to be a more natural store, maybe it doesn't fit. So really understanding our demographics and our customer base is where I would prefer that they start with, and not just assume because it's at Lazy Acres. But we do have the benefit, again, of having those sales data. But I would say on average, not just in our category, but I have seen within other category managers that doesn't always work, where they say, "Hey, by the way, I did that." The only benefit for us is that it's kind of already in the system. And so it cuts down some of our own work because we're not having to enter it into the system. We can already see the sales velocity. We can already see the sales data on the price point that worked for them. So there is some benefit, but it's not typically the reason why I choose something.
Right. Same distributor too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well.
I was going to say, I think that's a good segue to get back to Ollie as far as from a broker side when Darren's talking a little bit about the specifics and knowing your customer and things like that. So Ollie, you've been around long enough, the old train of thought was the more doors, the better, the better you can get out, the more you can get out there, the faster you can get out there, the better. What are you seeing now from the brands that are coming to you looking for representation? Are they looking for national representation? Are they looking for a more regional focus? And in your opinion, what's changed with that strategy the last few years?
Yeah, I think the kind of first place to start the conversation from a CA Fortune perspective is we're different in the sense of way our brokerage is constructed. We've got, emerging brand services. We've got e-commerce and omni-channel services. We've got a whole marketing side of our business that's really about activating after the product's on shelf. And so we're kind of seeing brands come to us at multiple stages of their life cycle. We don't just see the multi-billion-dollar brands. We certainly have them in our portfolio, and we don't just see, emerging brands, call it in that 0 to 20, 25 million in revenue space. What are brands looking for? I mean, honestly, I think it's thoughtful and strategic leadership against how you're going to go about growing, whether it's their ACV or their points of distribution, or in those larger scale efforts, whether it's getting, the core mix of product on shelf that's already out there in the market, right? And just helping them be as successful as they can be finding that consumer. I will tell you, there is still that group of, generally founder-led brands that just kind of believe, get it on shelf anywhere you can, no matter what, and then we'll figure it out afterwards, right? And so from our perspective, we really try to have a ton of conversation with a brand up front, especially if you're in that emerging space, that any interaction with us is going to be a 12 to 18 month process of, first off, figuring out what your whole ecosystem looks like. Whether they like it or not, they've got bodies buried somewhere, and we're going to have to help them figure that out, especially if they've already started approaching retailers. The second piece of that puzzle is really thinking about, okay, once we've done that, as you guys all know, you don't get to just knock on the door of a retailer and say, hey, please bring me in. You got to think about anchor retailers. You have to think about, if I go to the grocery side of the business with certain mass retailers before I approach certain natural retailers, I may never get a shot to go back into that door. And so then what's the channel strategy that I'm thinking about? And then, the other piece that we really have kind of, again, it's a nuance that has come up over the last 5 to 7 years, is this retailer.com, retailer media, Amazon and omni-channel world that exists, that if you're really thinking about the consumer, instead of the old traditional ways of a broker carrying a bag in saying, I got 300 lines, put it on the shelf and we'll figure it out. If you're really thinking about the consumer, that has to be part of your strategy too. And so now we're just trying to attack it from every angle that we can, letting brands know that, you're really in some ways a race against time and money, right? And we're trying to do our best to make sure that you can get to where you want to go, and then to be able to get back to the things that Jeff and Karen were talking about in terms of raising money, doing it the right way, being able to kind of methodically grow your brand over the course of time. These unicorns that pop up, that exit after 3 to 5 years, they're so few and far between, but that's the sexy story that gets told. And a lot of times we're educating people against that too, right? I mean, Wade, you're in the consulting space now, Jeff, of course, but we've all seen it. And so I think it's like half teacher, half, kind of like CPG Sherpa, if you will. Like, how do we bring you guys up that mountain and make sure that, you're with us at the end? So that's just, I think, a macro way of putting it.
Yeah.
Wait.
No. One
Wait,
thing
am I allowed to ask a question?
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Karen.
Please do. Please do. Well, we were coming to you next because we're going to flip it.
Yes.
We're going to flip it from the brand side back to the broker side. But go ahead, ask your question. We'll come back to that.
No, I love what Ollie, what you were saying about Amazon and being a part of the program. That's something Blume was really late to, and part of the reason was our perception, the brand perception of what retailers think about being on Amazon. And so I wanted to ask Darren, with you here, how do you think about as you're looking at brands, do you like seeing that they're on Amazon? Do you think it's part of their brand awareness? Do you understand the mix of the omni-channel, or do you prefer them not being on Amazon?
I mean, it's definitely tough because on average now I have more brands coming to me saying I'm on Amazon or I'm in mass or I'm conventional. It just seems like that's part of the program at this point because they're trying to get into as many doors and exposure and so forth. I mean, I would say 5 years ago, I was kind of like a lot of people, a little more sensitive, but because we are a chain, I think it really depends on who's in front of you. An independent retailer they're going to hear Amazon and avoid the product, truthfully, because they're definitely more mission driven. They're the touch point. They're the owners. They're the ones making the product decision. In my situation, because we're a multi-chain, I have to look at it a little differently, meaning, okay, because we don't always have as many touch points as a small mom and pop independent store does. The benefit of Amazon is that a lot more exposure to our customers now a little bit more brand recognition. So I'd say I'm a little less sensitive to it than I probably would have been 5 years ago. But, it's definitely, like I said, when I go to a trade show, it's it's more common than not now that someone will mention that they're on in mass or conventional. And I just have to kind of accept that and realize that, then I kind of will turn it, okay, well, if it's in Amazon, as a brand, how are you going to support the in-store team to promotions? So there's definitely things that maybe you can offer, Amazon that you're able to offer the in-store teams, whether it's through demos, through sampling, things like that. So it's having two different brand strategies, I think, is the benefit of any brand. But I think it's just the new reality. I mean, we talked about it a lot at our store is that, back in the day, you had a lot more destination retailers, brick and mortar. That's definitely changed because now, people want it today. And if they can't get today, they're going to get it online or from another competitor. So I think it's just, again, who you're in front of. But I would say more larger chains aren't going to be as sensitive to it anymore.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
I think from our perspective, so we acquired an e-commerce business about 5 years ago. And if you just simply look at the data, the portfolio of clients that e-commerce business had 5 years ago, the top 10 clients, not a single one of them was a food and beverage CPG product. They have phenomenal products, but they were all general merchandise, HBC products that, typically were easy to ship, find it on a screen, buy it in bulk. That was the case. And so these conversations with retailers weren't really necessary back then either, right? Today, 7 of the top 10 clients in our e-commerce portfolio are food and beverage products. In just a 5-year time frame, that's how quickly it's changed. And half of those are Amazon Fresh brands, which is wild, right? And so if you take that an even step further, and you start thinking about like what Target just did with bringing in 5,000 suppliers and just tripling down on their digital presence. When you think about kind of the way that all of the, call it top 6 retailers are thinking about the retailer.com space and the retailer media space, I just think eventually you're going to see this whole melding of trade dollars and marketing dollars, and everybody is just going to be thinking about, again, how do you find this consumer versus I've got a physical shelf and a digital shelf, and there's this big wall in between them. Like it can't operate that way anymore if we're all going to do what we want to do, which is get innovation into the hands of people that want it. Like Alex said, 15 minutes ago, innovation is down 85% or something along those lines. On the flip side, we have retailers coming to us, begging us to start innovation incubator programs for them because they also can't find it anymore. And in a lot of ways, it's like it's there, but it just may not be in the same places that you were used to looking a decade ago. And so I think there's just a lot that goes into figuring this out. But that digital space is something that I do believe retailers are just going to have to get super comfortable with. Otherwise we're going to be talking about church and state situation, and people are just going to go to where the consumer is. That's what the brand is going to create.
Well, you look at brands, whether it's Magic Spoon or even Mudwater, for anyone who takes Mudwater and loves functional mushrooms. Mudwater just launched nationally in Target in 1,800 locations. They were swore by D2C. They were only D2C. That's the only way you could find it, right? Unless you go to a local coffee shop that carries it. And so they crossed over. And then Magic Spoon was like D2C only. And then once they had the momentum and the marketability, they went into Target, they went into Sprouts and so forth and so on. So in Costco and I just saw them at Costco actually the other day. Yeah. So that's definitely, that line is being very blurred, and there's brands going back and forth between the two and growing their business on both. And I think it's good too when someone sees it more, they're more likely to buy it. So if they see it on Amazon and then they're in Target and they want to do an impulse buy, they're just going to buy Blume. right off the shelf. And also they can they can study it, they can get educated on it, they can read about it online, they might not buy it online, they see it in the store, and then they grab it. So I think it's definitely a great thing versus a bad thing. One other thing I'll add, because we got to get to our prize here and our sponsors, is about someone was saying about mass market innovations versus natural stores, right? And more specialty stores. What I love, I think Darren was talking about this. It's becoming more streamlined because these big mass market stores know that consumers are demanding better for you products. So when you look at Target, like if there's a before and after of like Target or even like Bristol Farms or any great chain, you see what it was 5, 6, 7 years ago versus now, a completely different set where you have brands that, like the Olippops or Honey Mamas or Midday Squares that are in mass market, but they're also coveted after in natural specialty like Bristol Farms or Lazy Acres. So I love how we're getting to that area where even in Ohio or Midwest, you can go to these stores and you can find natural specialty products on a mainstream shelf. So I like how it's heading in that direction. So Wade, I think we need to pivot to our sponsors here, and then we're going to go into our prize. I also want to mention, Jeff, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. And you've been very humble not to mention it, right? As an infomercial or something like that. But CPG Accelerator, Jeff Church is the founder of that, and it's a great program. Make sure to check it out. We're going to put the link in the chat. And there it is. So, and you can go to teamchurch.co. And then /accelerator to find out more information on the program to help your brand grow. Whether you're small, emerging, or middle market, he can work with you. And I'm one of his guests as on a panel for crowdfunding. Jeff graciously invited me, so I'll be appearing in September for one of his programs. So thank you, Jeff, for inviting me to that.
Thank you, Alex.
All right. So before my computer runs out of battery, it's always something always happens. All right, so we're going to go to our sponsors here, and then we're going to give out the prize. So we have our ongoing sponsors, Range Me. They work with over 15,000 buyers. They ensure continuous exposure to retail buyers from top retailers like Target, Albertsons, Whole Foods, Sprouts, Publix, Kroger, Costco, Wegmans, H-E-B, taking a breath, Food Line, Giant Foods, Fresh Market, and many, many more. I think also Bristol's on there, right, Darren?
Yes.
Okay. Got to cover all bases. So Bristol's on there. Lazy Acres is on there. So if you can't get Darren in person, you can get him through Range Me. And there's also an ECRM, which has category sessions in person. You can save up to 30% on their premium and pro subscriptions. Go to rangeme.com/CPG Vibes and check it out. There's also a QR code in the bottom right corner. And the other one is V-Driven, which just has the most kick-ass people, especially the guy in the red shirt. He's awesome. Their team is awesome. Love you guys. Be driven. Yeah. Leading consulting.
I was going to say, just reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about what we do on the consulting side and how we can help your brand grow. So we'll make it simple. Contact me. We'll talk all things V-Driven. How's that?
That's good. Short and sweet. I got the long and boring. You got the short and sweet. We make a good partnership on this podcast. All right. So, and then our weekly sponsor. Has anyone had Machiko before? Okay. All right, Mark. We got to get some more people. All right. So Machiko, he's a emerging brand. He's in a couple hundred stores in New York and LA. And I'm sure he's knocking on the door of Bristol and Lazy, because he wants to expand in SoCal. Amazing product. I'm a big fan of it. It tastes great. I feel good when I have it. He uses ceremonial grade matcha. They're ready to drink matcha beverages made with 100% ceremonial grade, repeating myself, from Japan, resulting in a clean, refreshing flavor without the bitterness I may have experienced from matcha beverages. A lot of matcha beverages taste terrible. There's some that taste good, like I like the pop and bottle one as well, but the Machiko is excellent, and it's non-GMO, verified, it's organic, it's shelf stable, but it tastes great in refrigeration. How about that? Ties right into what we were talking about before. And it's LGBT owned, and they're part of the 1% for the planet. And we're going to give away 2 8-packs of this product to a lucky winner with a trivia question. And Wade, I'm all out of I don't have any brain power left on Friday afternoon. Do you have a
All
question?
right, we're going to try and make this as simple as possible. I want to. I see things slowly popping up. I'm trying to answer a few questions. We're going to make it real simple.
Did you lose your audio?
There we go. We're back. We're back. I've got a simple. We're going to make it simple. Yeah, that was crazy. We're going to make it simple. I mentioned 2 states that I was in the last week. What were the 2 states? Not counting where I'm at today. All right. Well, we're doing that. Let's thank our guests again. Ollie from CA Fortune. And I'm trying to put in my links here as we go for Blume.
It's hard to multitask on these things.
I was going to say, Karen from Blume.
Jeff Church, CPG Accelerator, Darren Viscount. The not the senior category manager, but living senior category manager. We have to clarify that. And yeah, thank you guys and gal for being on, sharing your wisdom while we wait for the answers to come in here.
I show that Gavin got it. Gavin's on his toes today. And I was trying to put the links in for everybody again. cafortune.com. I just put in Blume. I put Team Church in. bristolfarms.com. I think we hit everything we could. It was a jam-packed hour. I think someone said, I think Gavin said he wished we had another hour left, but I think in the interest of our voices, our energy, and whatnot, I think we've hit all we can hit, but we'll have to do this again. It was a lot of fun. So we want to go through one time and let everybody say some closing remarks, Alex, and sign off.
Sure. Let's start.
Go ahead.
I was going to say ladies first. So yeah.
Oh no, I'm just really honored to be included and to hear all your stories. And thank you for having me today. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Great.
Awesome.
Ollie.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks for including me as well. Being in this group is special. I feel blessed to be here on this Friday with you all. And, from a brand perspective, we're not disappearing after this podcast. So 100% willing to just have conversations and help people navigate the world, the spider web of CPG anytime. So thanks a lot.
Love it. Jeff.
Yeah, no, thank you everyone for the time. One piece of advice to early stage founders that are that are just getting on the shelf and struggling with fundraising is, hey, just win at one store if that's all you're in, and just win at that store and expand to the other stores within that. Hopefully, there's 4 or 5 stores in that chain, and just understand your customer. And once you understand your customer and win at a store, you'll get more, and it will build. So you don't have to have a lot of money to get it going, and don't be disillusioned if it is difficult for you to fundraise in the beginning. Just win at one store.
Great. And last but certainly not least, Darren.
Yes, thank you for having me. It was obviously really grateful to be here. I'm always open to helping the community, so feel free to reach me out on LinkedIn. You can DM me. I'm always happy to, whether it's about Bristol Farms or anything you just want to know, CPG or anything, so feel free to DM me. And again, I'm really grateful for having me today.
Awesome. Okay, so we will adjourn for today. Some great guests, great conversations. If you would like to rewatch this episode, you literally just use the same link on LinkedIn, and then this will be posted on Monday, because we're recording on Friday. It will be posted on Monday on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And we just want to give a really quick just preview. On August 16th, we have our Master Series Volume 3 with Ari Raz, Coconut Colt, Adam Brown of Circle Media, Czar. You all know Czar with High Touch, right? And like the Suja days, right? High Touch, and Darren, you know him over there.
Yes.
And they deliver to Bristol and Lazy. Yeah.
Yes.
So Alex, there's one more way they can watch this stream back. If you go to youtube.com/@CPG Vibes, I'll try to put that in the chat. I've got a window closed here. If you go to, there's 3 tabs. There's Home, Videos, Live. The live is going on right now. It's been cross-streamed over to YouTube, but it's there as soon as we sign off here. You can watch it on YouTube under that live tab, as well as the last 6 episodes are there that you can go. And if you go to the home and the regular videos, the about 100 episodes, past episodes are live on YouTube if you need to see us instead of just hearing us. on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So
Perfect. We have faces. We have faces for radio, as they say, if you want to listen and not watch us. All right. So thank you again to our guests. And we will see you next week right here, Friday at 12 o'clock Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern. Take care, everyone. Have a safe and wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.